What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Daniel Cormier talks UFC 300 main event. With the historic UFC 300 card on the horizon in the new year, there's been a lot of talk of who will headline the card. Although the current speculation is that Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler will compete in the main event without a title on the line, many have wondered whether the UFC will look to put a title fight in the main event spot. During a recent episode of DC and RC, the Hall of Famer spoke about the situation.
UFC 100 had Brock.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
With George St. Pierre and all those guys. UFC 200 had Brock. It was supposed to be me and Jones also, but it ended up being me, Anderson Silva, Brock, all these guys, big names.
Yep.
UFC 300 has to have a name like that. We don't have a Brock Lesnar no more.
Yeah.
So I think you have to have a Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler.
For his part, McGregor has already been building up the fight, recently taking aim at Chandler in an audio clip where he mimicked Chandler's call out of him.
Conor McGregor, you've got to come back and fight somebody. I am the most entertaining lightweight on this planet.
Of course, there have also been rumors that former women's bantamweight champion Ronda Rousey could be returning for the historic card. However, multiple reports have indicated that Rousey will not be returning. As such, the UFC will likely roll with McGregor versus Chandler as the UFC 300 main event if possible. Next up, let's take a look at Jamahal Hill sends warning to Jiri Prochazka. When the UFC light heavyweight title is on the line this weekend at UFC 295, former champion Jamahal Hill will be forced to watch from the sidelines. Ahead of the bout, Hill has also notably found himself involved in a heated spat with MMA insider Ariel Helwani. Amid the back and forth, Helwani had Prochazka in studio for an appearance on the MMA Hour, where he seemingly took a subtle jab at Hill, referring to Prochazka as the real champ. During a recent video for his YouTube channel, Hill fired back at Helwani, while sending a clear message to the Czech samurai.
You know what I'm saying? Yuri, Ariel is not your friend, bro. He understands that that's English is your second language and you aren't as fluent with it as you are with your native language. So in doing that, he says things and words things and puts them in such a way that he tries to drag you in and get you to insult other people. Now, granted, in this most recent interview, you could tell whenever he brought my name up, Yuri just wanted to be out of the, you know what I mean? He doesn't want to talk. That's not how he goes about things.
While Hill still has a long road to recovery, the expectation is that he will return to an immediate title shot when the time comes. As such, if Prochazka winds up winning this weekend, fans will finally have the chance to see the two compete inside the octagon. Now, let's shift gears and take a look at UFC updates. With UFC 295 just days away, let's take a look at some UFC updates that may have flown under the radar. Starting with the January main event between Matheus Nicolau and Manel Kape, which is set to take place on January 13th at the UFC Apex. Although the hope was that Kai Kara-France and Kape would fight one another next, the bout has failed to come to fruition, putting the two flyweights in a position to run back their 2021 scrap, which Nicolau won via split decision. Over in the PFL, the promotion has been hard at work booking a short-notice replacement opponent after Julia Budd withdrew from her scheduled clash with Kayla Harrison. According to MMA Junkie, the latest reports indicate that the PFL is finalizing a bout between Harrison and Aspen Ladd for the PFL World Championship event in Washington, D.C. on November 24th. Last but certainly not least in the way of UFC updates, the automated UFC roster tracker account has indicated that Kanako Murata has been removed from the promotion's stable of fighters. Murata had recently returned from a 2-year hiatus last month, where she lost to Vanessa Demopoulos. The loss made it 2 straight for the Ryzen veteran and looks to have signaled the end of her UFC run. Next, let's take a look at Khamzat Chimaev and Jiri Procházka go back and forth. Although Khamzat Chimaev and Jiri Procházka are competing in 2 different weight classes, the two recently got into a bit of a back and forth in the media. The pair previously trained together, with Procházka praising Chimaev's wrestling and cardio before stating that nothing about the undefeated contender's game is truly special. During a recent interview, Chimaev followed up on the claims while speaking in Russian via Black Belt MMA. Chimaev opened up on the training that the two did, while revealing that Procházka got the better of him in the stand-up, before then stating that he turned the Czech samurai into a bag in sparring, and alleging that his coaches would back him up on the claim. We worked together, we fought, he gave me a good stand. I had a bad stand. It was the beginning of my career. We did some body weight, I beat him, he didn't even win in sparring. We made a bag out of him. Although Chimaev is on the brink of a title fight at 185 pounds and Procházka is gearing up to compete against Alex Pereira for the vacant light heavyweight title, Boers indicated that if Procházka holds a title belt, then he's interested in fighting him. Leading up to UFC 295, Prochazka responded to the comments, sharing his side of the training session while speaking to MMA Fight Universe in an interview.
I left this conversation about him and all these stuff because he puts out the things what was from training, and that's something what was not to
talk about it, yeah.
Not right to do, because I took that training lightly, and he every time was like crazy. But doesn't matter. Whatever. If I will face him in the cage, I will win. Doesn't matter for me.
Given that Chimaev has a reputation for being eager to fight anyone, anytime, anywhere, if the two both find themselves in a position where they can compete in a champion versus champion fight, they both sound eager to do so. Next, let's take a look at Paddy Pimblett reveals shocking news. After tying the knot with his longtime girlfriend earlier this year, UFC lightweight Paddy Pimblett is reportedly expecting twins. In recent months, Pimblett began ramping up training for his highly anticipated return to the octagon after undergoing ankle surgery. As he looks forward to a big return, he'll also be looking forward to the birth of twins. Taking to social media recently, Pimblett shared a photo of two baby outfits along with a sign indicating that the Pimblett twins would be born in May of 2024. In the caption, Pimblett wrote, "I don't do things by halves, like do I? The Pimblett twins incoming 2024. While the congratulations poured in from members of the MMA community, many also wondered how the situation could wind up impacting his return to the octagon. As we've seen in the past, fighters often take time off to be with their significant others when expecting children. With the birth of the Pimblett twins expected before the summer, it'll be interesting to see whether the baddie looks to return to action before or after the momentous occasion. Next, let's take a look at Dan Hooker not happy with the UFC. Although Dan Hooker has earned a reputation for being an incredibly game fighter, he wasn't too happy with the recent 5-round booking between he and Bobby Green for the UFC Fight Night Austin co-main event. While 5-round fights are traditionally reserved for title fights and main events, the UFC has decided to capitalize on what's sure to be an entertaining scrap between Green and Hooker by booking the pair for 5 rounds. Speaking to the NZ Herald, Hooker opened up on the situation. "The main event is 5 rounds. You can't chuck it to co-main and still keep the 5 rounds. It's just not a thing. It's a sport of risk versus reward. You give me the main event and everything that comes with that. With winning a main event comes bigger opportunities and you get a lot more exposure. I love main events. But you're not getting the same reward for equal risk. It just doesn't make sense. They're taking me for a bit of a donkey." Hooker, of course, has racked up a number of post-fight bonuses throughout his career, both for his performances and for thrilling fights. Despite that, as he looks to move up the lightweight rankings, a 5-round fight with a dangerous opponent in Bobby Green is certainly a high-risk fight. When healthy, Hooker likes to keep an active schedule. Given his status as a fan favorite, the UFC may look to book him for a main event fight early in the new year following this one, depending on how things play out. Sean O'Malley and Marlon Chito Vera faced off for the first time ahead of their rematch for the title.
Awesome. Thank you, boys. That's good.
Alex Pereira kicked Daniel Cormier and he was clearly not okay. It shows the strength that Alex has in his legs, only giving DC 25% of his power.
Yeah. Look. Okay. my leg kind of this.
No,
my leg, you see my leg? My leg kind of this.
5% now.
That was 5. Okay.
No.
All right.
What for quantos %?
É, 5%.
This was 5%.
Okay, give me a little more.
Ah, gostou de lutar.
pouquinho mais.
Oh, what percent was this?
Quantos %?
Ah, 10%.
10%.
Tell him I want 25, but not crazy.
Okay,
It's
25.
like, that's it, at the most.
Okay.
25, but that's it.
Na mãe.
Okay. Oh!
Hã?
Yeah.
Boa.
That's why with you is always wrestle takedown. Holy shit.
God damn, this motherfucker gonna kick my leg up.
Ariel Helwani makes accusations against Dana White. Last week, longtime MMA insider Ariel Helwani reported that Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira were in talks to headline UFC 297. At the time, Helwani reported that the fight was in the works. However, shortly after, UFC CEO Dana White announced the UFC 297, UFC 298, and UFC 299 main events, none of which included Makhachev and Oliveira. A report then surfaced indicating that Makhachev would be out until March, leaving Helwani looking like he was reporting false news. During an episode of the MMA Hour this week, Helwani spoke about the situation, theorizing,
"What you saw happen yesterday is pretty much what I was describing. They hate when I break news, especially when it's a dominance guy. Ali gets so upset about this, he'll start calling me names, he'll start going crazy. They'll call up their puppet media members and they'll get it out there saying this is not true, this is not true." And so that's fine. You can believe them or you can believe me. I'll put my track record, my history of telling the truth, of getting things right, of batting 1,000 over their track record any single day of the week. I'll put it up any freaking day of the week.
So far, Abdelaziz has yet to respond to Helwani's latest comments. However, given their beef, it's likely that he does fire back on social media in the coming days.
What would happen is the UFC would get a fight done and they would tell the manager, "Hey, if Ariel breaks this news, we're going to scrap it and or move it or change it or whatever." Now, at the time when this really was a thing, it was when I was at ESPN, and I guess they didn't like that I was at ESPN. And so they would threaten to do this and give it to the other reporter at ESPN to try to make me look bad and diminish my standing within the company. In large part because I didn't like that it was putting the fighters and the managers in this awkward position where they would call me and tell me, "Hey, this is happening, but you can't break it because they told us this and we don't want to lose it."
Top comments. I love how people are saying Khamzat got robbed like Drakus wasn't supposed to be the number one after beating Bobby Knuckles, so got robbed first. Unprecedented when two fighters complain about rankings and are eventually gifted the number one spot when John Jones is out of commission. I don't think Khabib deserved number one, and I don't think Islam deserves it either. I will laugh when he cries foul when Jones comes back next December and jacks his number one spot back. As much as I want to like Masvidal, I don't. Anyone in their mid-30s who actually has a head on their shoulders should be able to admit that his appeal is geared more towards young punks who still feel that they have to prove themselves to the world. I don't know. I just feel like after literally just barely missing felony charges, he would be like, wow, time to grow up. But no matter how good a fighter someone can be, they can still be an idiot. So no one is going to mention that Khamzat is injured, and that's why DDP is getting the shot, which he should have got originally but was injured. Chael's undefeated and undisputed in the cage and on the mic. Chael pulled the first ever 10-1 in MMA history. Make sure to leave a comment and you might get featured in our next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss any MMA news. Check out our video from yesterday if you missed it. See you tomorrow.